So this is a game that I've been waiting for years. I mean, I can only say that this is one of the games that it just fell through the cracks for me, and it's one of those games that I own on a PSP, but I do not own a PSP. So, you can see the issues there. Crisis Core was one of those games that I did play a little bit of, and then my PSP broke, and I just was unable to get another PSP. So, one was one that I had heard rumor, oh, it's going to be ported, but I also heard that about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. So, you can't really take everything you hear as fact. And the fact that this one actually did come out is just amazing, because this has something to do more with the story of Final Fantasy VII that I'm really interested in. See, the thing is, Final Fantasy VII, a lot of people do know that there's a lore to it. It goes deeper, but the game itself doesn't really tell too much of the past. It's interesting, like if you watch the movie or you really get into it, you can find little hints, you can find some stuff out, but it does do a good job of being very vague, or at least the original. The remake is done definitely a lot better in that regard, but now we have that ability to go through and find out how Cloud came to be, really. But more importantly, about a hero who I share something really important with, and his story, and how he had the Buster Sword. How this Buster Sword got passed on. It's all important, really, especially if you're a big Final Fantasy freak like me. But anyway, before we get into this, I do want to say, please hit that like and subscribe button. I hate begging, but I need subs. I want to hit that 1,000 mark in the relatively near future. Anyway, going on, I'm not going to give too many story points away or anything like that. I'm not even doing a review. This is just like my thoughts, my impressions, all of that stuff, because the thing is, I haven't beaten it, and I'm not going to. This is one of those I'm not going to rush. Like, it's more for me, and I enjoy the game, but I did want to talk about it, and the reason why is because this game does some stuff that I had heard, well, the Nintendo Switch can't do anymore. I mean, when you look at the gameplay I'm putting up, now I understand the game looks way better, or at least significantly better in handheld mode, through the OLED screen, all that good stuff. But even just in docked mode, this game looks amazing. And it's one of those things that Pokemon came out and everyone said, okay, the Switch has hit its limitations, but no one really stopped and thought about what they were asking Pokemon to do, and the fact that these Pokemon games just get rushed out. And yeah, needless to say, there's going to be some problems. This game is immaculate. It really is beautiful. I mean, this goes back to the fact that if you know what you're doing, this comes from a really quality company, they're going to do the right thing, and they're going to make the game look and play great. And all I can say is that's exactly what this does. Not only is the game pretty much perfect as far as performance, I've had one or two small hiccups, and oddly enough, they happened more in the cutscenes than they did in anything else. But as for gameplay, the combat is incredibly responsive and just smooth and just very fluid. It works really well for the game. I even look at something like just the environment. And yeah, there are some issues. Like if you look at the floor, for instance, there's definitely a little bit of, kind of blurriness. But then at the same time, if you look at certain walls, like when you're in the Shinra building, it has texture. There is actual texture there. Or you can see a form of light tracing. I know it's not the real thing, but there is a form of it. And honestly, if they said, hey, Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to come out in this quality for the Switch, I would be fine with that. I'm fine with trading that for being able to play it on the go and the mobility aspect. But I know I'm going on and on about the graphics just because the game looks so good. I mean, there really isn't a lot to complain about with the graphics. It's up there with one of the best I've seen on the Nintendo Switch. And after being told, that's not possible, I just think it's kind of funny. But it's not only the graphics. As I talked about before, the actual gameplay is incredibly smooth and fluid. And movement, interactions, all of that just really work really well. The only thing that I would say I kind of complain about is that when you're moving Zack around, it's a little too loose. He feels like if you use your analog stick a little bit, he'll go flying in a direction. I got used to it. It's not that big of a deal, but at first it's a little bit jarring. And I wish you could kind of turn down the sensitivity, but there's no option for that. So that's my only complaint for this entire game. Now, I enjoy everything from the combat aspect to all the side missions where you get a lot of special materia, which is basically like spells and can come in the form of like magic, like fire, thunder, blah, blah, blah. Or they can be things that you attach that help you with your HP or your attack or things of that nature. Or they can actually be summons where you summon a gigantic creature like Bahamut to your team, and he comes in with a mega flare and neutralizes the battlefield a little bit. But lastly, I do want to talk just briefly about the story. I'm not going to give anything away, and partially because, well, I'm not through the game yet. I am pretty far. I'm further along than when I planned on doing this, but, time, it's a bitch. It gets away from all of us. This story follows Zach, who is a soldier in second class when you first start the game, and he looks up to guys like Sephiroth, Angeal, and Genesis. Now, these guys are all first class. We all know who Sephiroth is at this point. If we don't, then maybe this isn't the game for you. I don't know, but actually it might be a good jumping in point, to be honest. But, Sephiroth is actually your main enemy in Final Fantasy VII. He's like the most loved bad guy. Everyone loves Sephiroth. Not only is he, just evil and badass, but in some ways you kind of understand how he is who he is. And I think he's one of the first bad guys in video games that you do kind of have that attachment to, or you understand a little bit more about him. I think that was one of those things that made Final Fantasy VII so special. So with Crisis Core, going back and actually being able to hear more of his story and understand how he was like working together with him. Like he wasn't such this like dark, mysterious dude. I mean, to an extent he still was, but you had conversations with him. He would work with you. He was on your team half the time. You could see some stories about him, and I think in a lot of ways, this game is about him as much as it is Angeal, and as much as it is about Zack. There is some reference to in Final Fantasy VII, the original. The remake, he's more prevalent in the game, and I think going forward, he's going to be a bigger part in the remake, but I don't know, I can't say for sure. I just have that feeling, and I think most people would agree with me. And ultimately, I think that's what makes this game almost more essential than before. Now, for me, somebody who, this is my Moby Dick. It just slipped out of my hand. I was unable to beat it. One of the few Final Fantasies I haven't beaten, and now it's back on the Switch, which is just, amazing. But if you're into Final Fantasy VII Remake, well, you're gonna get more story. It's arguable that this is now actually part of the trilogy or whatever they're actually making. I don't know how many Final Fantasy VII remakes they're making, but again, one could argue that this is part of that. So it becomes more essential, and the fact that it plays so well on the Switch. This is maybe the best looking, best performing game that I've ever played on the Switch. And I think that speaks volumes coming in on a time when, the Nintendo Switch is dead and they're moving on. They probably are at some point soon, but still, it can do amazing things, and this is just a product of that. Anyway, I really recommend anyone check it out, especially if you're a Final Fantasy fan. I like the aspect that it's only $50, which I know seems expensive for some people, but when you think about what you're getting, you think about the quality, it's a Square game, you could argue that it's part of the new, Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy or quadrilogy. I don't know how many they're making. And with just the quality of the game, I think 50 is definitely fair. And it was one of those I just jumped on. I didn't even think about the price. But moving forward, yeah, I think a lot of people should check it out. It's amazing. It's really, really impressive what they did, and I love it. I'm taking my sweet time with it. Just doing the side missions, grinding, just soaking up this entire world, because this is something that I love. And I don't know when we're going to get back to it. And that's what I think is a little bit depressing, which makes you just want to just stay in the world for as long as you can. Anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on it. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please let me know down in the comment section below. Have you played it? Are you picking it up? Do you not care about Final Fantasy at all? So I'm not saying we can't be friends, but my feelings are hurt. But no, seriously, guys, I'm going to try to get out as many videos as I can before the end of the year. Turns out I'm going to have family here, so that's going to put a real damper on things. But like always, guys, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy, because you make me happy.